Welcome to episode 44, the first episode recorded since the atom bomb of the comments in Lesbian Talk 42 on the cover of the glasses.
It's weird. It's still going on too. It's like Centralia. Yeah, it is. It's like Centralia, where the coal fire's been burning underground since like 1968.
Jesus Christ! Last time I looked, it was like 92.
It was, and I was like, we're popular. Oh wait, no, people are just arguing with each other about Distressed Watcher. Oh.
Still about 90 odd. Okay. But, yeah, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Preachers fight the good fight, so.
You put the word lesbian in there, or possibly the word talk, and then suddenly everyone loses their shit.
Well, it's just, I mean, I don't know if people know this, and in fact, I'm sure that most people don't, but the actual title of the podcast comes from a joke.
Yeah.
When we were both on, Gomer the Ranting Thespian has a podcast called Lesbian Talk, which occasionally, I'm actually a pretty regular co-host, and Hagan's on occasionally, but one time we were both on together, because she was in my country, and we said to Gomer, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we had a podcast called Lesbian Talk? Get it? It'd be like thespian, but lesbian. Get it? You get it? And he was like, ha ha ha, and then we did that.
Yeah, that's the only reason it's actually the name of the show. It's an in-joke, and not even a very good one.
But I guess if you wanted to listen to our podcast to, like, get secrets about lesbians, you probably could. Except for your secrets would mainly be Doctor Who trivia and our lives. So, there you go. Trivia. So, pretty much, the next episode, which you've already heard by now, because it went up a week ago, except it's going up in 2 days, because we're Time Lords, was recorded live at MagFest with Menfolk. Yeah. Shock and alarm. But so this episode, we decided, you know what, if people think that, we're really gay, we should go out of our way to be really gay, instead of just talking about Doctor Who the whole time.
What definition of gay are you using there? Because we kind of are.
Yeah, but I guess we don't talk about enough gay things to infuriate people on a consistent basis. So it's a Lesbian Talk's big gay episode. Welcome.
Yeah, basically.
Big fat lesbian episode.
Basically,
I don't know why I said that in Lupus voice.
Cry. All of you assholes who left all those really, really insane, probably not seriously trolling, ridiculous comments about how LGBT things should not be on Tigwittig and all that. This episode is directly your fault.
Well, it wasn't really all that many people. It was only a few, quite honestly.
Yeah,
but one guy was like, fuck you, Linkara. You're a feminist, and I don't like your show anymore. Which came out of fucking nowhere. I was like, what? You asked for it, and you got it. We weren't being gay enough, so we're gonna be pretty gay right now.
Damn right.
I'm gaily playing Crystal Breaker, like I always am. Well,
I'm, what is that? Drum roll, please.
Hold on.
I'm so lesbian. I am, stroking, a furry pussy.
Which one, Mary or Pippa?
Mary right now, but Pippa's looking very, very jealous. She's like, I want to be stroked too. Now I'm going to lay on my side.
Honey, I'm sure over the course of the show that you can stroke all the pussy. But so, our word from last week was okay, as donated by Mr. Owen Citizen himself. So we decided that should be the abbreviation for Oklahoma, which was pretty fortunate, actually, because Oklahoma, which turned out to be very musical in nature, but it's pretty good. It's pretty fortunate that we did, because Oklahoma has actually been in the news this past week for a pretty shocking reason. Was a state court ruled that their marriage ban is unconstitutional, and now the judge has stayed his decision pending an appeal, so nobody can get married in Oklahoma. But, I mean, of course, obviously, the state is going to appeal, because I think it was like the Surgeon General of the state, or the Supreme Justice, somebody high up in the state, was like, basically, them homos are perverts, and we're going to appeal. So I think next it goes to the Federal Circuit Court that Oklahoma is under, and then it would go to the Supreme Court.
Interestingly, Oklahoma, if I remember correctly, is in the same circuit as Utah. And so whatever happens to Utah theoretically might affect Oklahoma.
This is true. And it's really weird, because I think pretty much in every single state now that there's either a law or a ban on the state constitution, they have several court cases that are going on. So pretty much court cases are being racked up in every state, because how can a state judge say, well, I know the federal government says you're covered by the Constitution, but the state government says you don't get federal rights. Because while states do have their own rights, those rights can't interfere with federal rights. So it's going to get pretty squirrely.
Eventually, this is going to have to come down to a head. It's the Supreme Court, being mostly a mixture of gutless and idiot, they're going to keep trying to push it down as far as they can, but eventually they're going to have to take it head to head. And part of me really hopes...
For those of you who are listening at home, her phone, when it gets a text, sounds exactly like a microwave going off. Just saying.
It's a Hot Pocket.
What are you going to pick? Hot Pockets. Gay Hot Pockets, more like it.
Hey, Robin, that was you. You listen to this show, that was you. Doo-doo-doo. Part of me really hopes that the Supreme Court continues to be gutless until another conservative has gone. Then they'll have no fucking chance of losing.
Well, maybe someone will die. Oh, that's really terrible. I shouldn't say that. It's just that I have no idea how I'm gonna file my taxes this year. Like, we were married in Maryland, and I have to pay Maryland tax. I have to, file Maryland state tax, and I have to file Pennsylvania state tax. I earn money in both states. But we were married in Maryland. We're not married in Pennsylvania. But I've gotten income from both. But you're not a citizen, so I don't know if I filed jointly or... I need assistance. Yeah, this whole thing is ridiculous. We actually, when we were going on the way down to MagFest, we started off in Pennsylvania, went through Delaware, went through Maryland, and ended up in... it's technically still Maryland, but it calls itself part of D.C. No. It's National Harbor, Maryland, but it's... People say D.C. because it's the D.C. area. You can see the district from where you are. You're not technically, quote, in the cube.
Yeah, it acts like it's part of D.C.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Well, it's full of airs and graces and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's true. There are some airs and graces about.
But Pennsylvania, no marriage equality. Delaware, civil unions. Maryland, full marriage equality. And it's just like, we're constantly leveling up on the drive.
Yeah, and then we have to go back, where it's like an $8 toll on 95 in Delaware, and also we slowly become less married.
Yeah, and it's funny on one level, but on the other level, it's really, really, really fucking dehumanizing and insulting.
Well, yeah, we were at the Independent Seaport Museum, which is at Penn's Landing in Philadelphia. Really great little museum, like the whole maritime history of Philadelphia. Really great place. I interviewed the curator years ago when I was working for a magazine. A wonderful person. And there was a unit on a part on slavery, because I didn't know this, that back when Pennsylvania was a slave state, way back in the day, there were slave markets. And coincidentally, where the slave markets were is right across the street from where the Irish Memorial is.
Yeah.
But so there was this, like, they were around the exhibits, there were all these talking points that said, what do you think about this? Tweet about it and use this hashtag. Like, obviously, for school kids. But one of them, in the slavery area, and please note before because I can hear people salivating over their keyboards, I am not equating gay rights with civil rights, so don't get upset.
No. You are. Civil rights is not limited to one
slavery.
group. Yeah.
Slavery is very different than civil rights. Okay, so I misspoke.
Yeah.
I'm not equating slavery with gay civil rights. But the little thing he said, have you ever been told that you couldn't do something just because of who you are? Tweet about it. And we felt that was, in Pennsylvania, where we're not legally married, thought that was so hilarious. So we tweeted about it with the hashtag.
Yeah, the entire exhibit was very well intentioned. It was supposed to celebrate the fact that after so long of fighting against injustice and, going back 2 steps, going forward 1 step, for hundreds of years, Pennsylvania was finally a place where everyone could be equal and be treated the same way. It was very well intentioned, but obviously it's like
Pennsylvania was, to stick up for my home state, it was one of the first abolitionist states.
Yeah. But I remember they had this big wall of timeline of how Pennsylvania, it would do something really, really good and revolutionary, and then about 10 years later it would get rid of that law and make people second-class citizens again. It did this several times.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
And it seems like the whole point of this exhibition was, we are finally at the end of this thing, we are as good as we always tried to be, and everything is wonderful, look at this, no discrimination in Pennsylvania. And it's just like...
We're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. It's like being told, it's really hard to put into words the feeling, the mix of and amusement and anger and sadness.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that I see on the internet at least in the Yahoo comments anyway. Or, even in, Guardian comments and other places. They're like, well, I don't care what gay people do, but I'm just sick of having it shoved down my throat, why do I have to hear about it on the news, every day? And, I can get that. I'm already sick of hearing about Chris Christie and the goddamn George Washington Bridge, but the thing is that it's kind of other people's lives. I talked to somebody at MagFest, and I'm not going to say who. I forget how gay marriage came up, but the person said, you have to understand, movements like that can only go so far so fast, and if you try to do it all at once, you're going to end up making everybody angry and upset. And I could see how somebody could think that, but I really had to kind of stop and consider my words, because what I really wanted to say is, dude, you're talking about me. In when you talk about that, you do realize that. So what I ended up saying was, well, Hagan and I, we got the part that we wanted, we got the federal part, so I can sponsor her for immigration, ha ha ha. And then the person said, oh yeah, well that's good, blah blah blah, things and stuff. And then somebody else came up and,
Yeah, if I was there for the conversation, I probably would have been a bit more brusque about it.
Yes, well, you're not as polite as I am.
Well, and interestingly, I tend to be more polite with people I don't know, and people. If I'm feeling comfortable enough to be impolite to you, that indicates that actually I feel like I'm comfortable with, and I know you, and I like you.
So make a note of that, you guys, in case you ever get in a fight with Hawkins.
This is how it works in real life, anyway. I would have pointed out that that's very easy from someone who doesn't know, who obviously hasn't done much research into rights gaining in the Western world, who is white, straight, and cisexual, and a bunch of other things.
Define cisexual, because you had to define it for me the first time, and people might not know what it means.
Cisexual is basically the heterosexual to transsexuals, homosexual. It's like heterosexual, the term was invented basically to create an equal playing field, because otherwise you'd have the term, with homosexual, in the case of homosexual and normal, which is unfair in language. So heterosexual was invented in the same way. They had the term transsexual, so it's like you can't have transsexual and normal, that's unfair, because it suggests that transsexual is abnormal. So cisexual was invented in the early 90s, I believe.
I think it sounds like somebody from the Harry Potter universe has sex with snakes.
That's one of the more interesting interpretations I've heard of the word.
Because of all the S's involved. But yeah, so it's hard, because, I can sympathize with people who are like, I just want to stop hearing about it. But the thing is that we want to stop hearing about it too. And the only way that we're going to stop hearing about it, when a celebrity coming out is not going to be a big deal, is when everything stops being a big deal.
Yeah. And the person, they have never had to think about that sort of matter. So obviously to them it's like, okay, I don't want to piss people off, I want to make everyone friends and all, and that's how you have progress. But if you do any sort of research into this shit, that's not how you have research. That's not how you have...
Yeah, but maybe our conversation made the person think and be like, well, I might think about this differently.
Because, even people like Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King is today held up as an exemplar of moderate, completely peaceful way to get to fight for rights. And he was peaceful, but he was not moderate. The guy was not at all moderate. The guy would not be considered moderate today if you looked at his actual policies. And the guy did not sit down, shut up, and just wait for the white man to give them the rights. No, he demanded it. And that's exactly...
I'm not going to take it sitting down either. I'm going to go to another country where the rights are slightly better.
But yeah, no time in history has any kind of equality or civil rights, or has rights of any type been expanded, just because the people the majority who are not going to be helped by this felt like it. They had to be forced into it in some way by the minority.
Yeah, and I wasn't alive during the original, gay civil rights. I was obviously not alive for Stonewall and all that kind of stuff. I only barely remember the early days of AIDS because I was a very young child then. So it's kind of like, I don't want to call it like millennial activism, but I don't know.
Interestingly, although the modern gay rights movement gets sort of usually put down to Stonewall, it's actually one of those things that's very, very hard to pin down as an actual start, because it didn't happen in a vacuum. It was important.
I understand that. It's just one of those watershed moments that if anyone knows anything about gay rights, they're going to know about Stonewall. Well, yeah. Or the basic, when you tell me, oh, did you see this movie? I'm like, nah, I saw the trailer, but I know the general gist. Kind of like that.
Then, of course, you've got the lots of organizations named after Stonewall, which helps publicize it. And ironically, in the UK, there's an organization called Stonewall, named after obviously the Stonewall riot. And I'm not a fan of them. It wasn't until about a year or two ago that they became in favor of gay marriage. This is the UK...
I really don't understand how that works, quite honestly. Maybe it's a British thing, and I just don't understand that.
No, it's not a British thing. It's everyone else was telling you you're fucking stupid, you idiots.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they want that, though?
Because they were they were sort of cozying up with the government. They're a complete corporatist LGBT group. They were also, to this day, they will sort of give out awards and award nominations to like people who say horrible things about bisexuals and trans people, and occasionally, really, really sort of sometimes misogynist things by gay guys. They're very much straight acting, corporatist, mainstream, white, gay male organization. Which is really ironic considering Stonewall was kicked off by butch lesbians, drag queens, transsexuals, and mostly they weren't white.
Ha ha ha. So there you go. Also, like, here's another thing. Like, I know some people who are, oh, well, I love gay people and I have gay friends and stuff like that, but bisexuals are weird and transgender folks are wrong. And when you say LGBTQI, LMNOP, that counts everybody. Even if you have a label that just exists on Tumblr. So you can't be like, I love gays and lesbians, but everyone else can go fuck themselves. That's not even good.
Yeah, it's not a way to try and make friends with... Well, some lesbians will be happily make friends with you if you say fuck the bisexuals or fuck the trans people or whatever. But we won't.
We won't. We'll always be your podcast friends.
We will give you death stares and wish pain upon you.
No, we're being nice to people if we...
No, we're being nice. I was referring to how we'd be to people who saying that, fuck the bisexuals.
Oh, okay. I got confused. I thought you said that we said fuck everybody. I was like, we won't do that. We love you.
Oh, yes, we're anyone can listen, that's cool. Basically, Sherry Shepherd today, apparently, she did an interview where she talked about how she...
Sherry Shepherd?
From The View, the large evangelical Christian black woman.
Oh, yeah, I don't watch The View.
Well, she did an interview where she talked about how she can be friends with gay people, but, as a Christian, she believes they're going to burn in hell. And I'm sorry, you do not get to be friends with gay people if at the same time you believe they're going to burn in hell. If you believe that they're going to burn in hell, get yourself friends that you don't think are going to burn in hell.
You could be acquaintances or coworkers.
Yeah, but don't call them friends.
That's true.
Friends don't believe that other friends are going to burn in hell. I don't care if it's your religious beliefs or not.
Friends don't let friends drive drunk or burn in hell. Actually, I had a coworker when I was down working at the bookstore down in D.C., and he was a really nice guy. He was a Mormon, and real geeky guy. He loved D&D. He loved sci-fi, a whole bunch of stuff. So one day we were standing around, and I was resetting the new in sci-fi release bay, and he was standing around bullshitting with me. And I was like, blah, 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 and things and stuff. And did you see on something awful this week? And he's like, yeah, I know, right? And then he finally just looks at me for a second. And he goes, see, why can't I find a girl that's like you, but looks like Jessica Alba? And I go, and is straight? Yeah. And I said, I think that's the best compliment I've ever gotten. I want a girlfriend that's just like you, but is straight and looks like Jessica Alba.
Yeah, your friend there, he seems like a nice guy, but I'm afraid that if I got into any kind of conversation about LGBT things, I would have had to destroy him verbally.
Well, probably. He stopped commenting on my Facebook, because occasionally I don't use Facebook often, usually just to upload pictures, but sometimes I'll share something funny or political, and he's the guy that always gets into it with Andrew. So finally, I just stopped posting political stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't want people to fight on my Facebook, but I have a little bit of time before the music break. So what else did you want to talk about before we run away to the dulcet tones of Tony Goldmark?
Tony with an I right now, because this is the big lesbian episode.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Well, no, because they all got to be honorary lesbians last time, so...
Antonia Goldmark. We're going to talk about stereotypically lesbian-y things. Just because all lesbianisms all the fucking time in this episode... Guys from that guy with the glasses who were being shitty in the comments, This is your fault.
Alternately, if you want to, learn lesbian secrets, you better listen up now. If you think your dick is good enough to convert, well, then you better get all the secrets, buddy. So you know.
And you'd better convert the rest of your body to looking more like a lesbian, otherwise you might not be able to get use of your dick.
Actually, I had a friend, and this was, we talked about him before. He actually ended up the title of one of our episodes, Dick Dick Son of Dick Dick. He looked like a young lesbian, the way he had his hair.
Yeah, Justin Bieber looks like a young lesbian.
Yeah, but he looked like a young lesbian in a not unattractive kind of way. He just looked really butch. But I have to sadly admit that I had flannel in the 90s. I had a lot of flannel. Sorry, guys. I never had the female mullet, though. I never rocked that.
And plaid shirts.
Huh? Plaid?
UK, we pronounce it plaid.
That's incorrect and upsetting.
Excuse me, it's tartan. it's tartan.
Hush, I will culturally appropriate your shirts.
It's tartan. Therefore, our pronunciation is better than yours.
Well, whatever. But yeah, I had that. I've seen the Indigo Girls in concert. I've done it. Do you even know who the Indigo Girls are, honey?
Yeah, I know who they are. They're like a band. I don't know.
They're like a band.
I've heard of them. I could not recognize any of their names or titles or songs.
First of all, there's only two of them. They're not a couple, and they've been singing since they've been together for a long time. Since the mid-'80s.
It should be a couple.
Well, but they have other girlfriends. They were friends. They were friends in high school, and then they went off to college and stuff like that. Then they came back home to their hometown, and they're like, "We're really awesome. We should start a band." And then they did. And then they were gay. And then they dated people and did shows and had lives. Emily and Amy. That's Indigo Girls.
We should,
You're like, I'm just gonna let that topic come.
I'm like, yay. I realize that they're like the stereotypical lesbian band. As far as I'm concerned, you give a woman with a semi-strong voice, an acoustic guitar, and you've basically got yourself a lesbian song.
This is very true, because back in the day, when I was in high school, I said to a friend of mine, I don't know how to play the guitar, I mean, because this was, Sean Colvin was really big, Sheryl Crow had not really gone country yet, just everybody. It was the year of the female singer-songwriter. And I was like, I could do that. My friend goes to me, female singer-songwriter. Is that code for lesbian with a guitar? And I was like, yes.
Ironically, one person who really, really, really should just come out is Michelle Shocked.
Oh, isn't she that? She was all went on a rant about how gay people are wrong, and everybody called her on it. She's like, no, I was just trolling.
Well, she didn't say she was trolling. She continues to say she agrees. She believes that, but she says it's more nuanced than. She thinks more people she keeps saying that it's more nuanced than people realize, and it's like. But she's just like this really butch woman with a guitar who is pretty much, she hits every single sort of gaydar sort of thing when it comes to self-hating lesbian.
There are people that, they're straight as the day is long, but if I didn't know better, I would say. And, that happens. It's like, we'll probably get to this in the second half, but that movie, But I'm a Cheerleader, which takes place at a gay conversion camp. And there's the one totally stone butch girl who finally breaks down during one of the group therapy sessions and says, I'm not a lesbian. I love boys. I just really like sports. And then runs off crying.
I remember that. It was funny. Yeah, with Michelle Shocked, she seems to have serious issues around sexuality. Earlier in her career, she sort of put forward ambiguousness about her sexuality and stuff, and then apparently at times she claimed to be bisexual or claimed to be gay, and then she said she wasn't, then she was married to this guy for 10 years, then she's turned into Fred Phelps. She strikes me as probably has issues.
Did she watch Xena Warrior Princess? Because I don't know about anybody else, but I think Xena Warrior Princess probably turned me gay. Just saying.
Well, she's 51, so I don't know if she's in the right demographic to watch it obsessively.
Well, no, because it was on Friday nights, as I recall, and then you could also catch it sometimes Saturday mornings or randomly during the week. And so I loved watching it. I was like, I love the Xena Warrior Princess. Someday I'm going to be tall and kick ass and things and stuff. And well, Gabrielle's such a good friend. I'm so glad that Xena and Gabrielle are such good friends. It really makes me happy that they're friends and they're not always running around talking about their boyfriends, because that's what I hate about regular TV. Things will get interesting until everyone stops to talk about their boyfriend or girlfriend. And so, but I still, for some reason, didn't want to be caught watching it, I'm not sure why I felt guilty about it, because it's a perfectly legitimate show. There's nothing, like, not safe for work going on. But if, like, this, because this is back, like, in high school, like, when my parents came out and were like, hey, I want to tell you things and stuff, I would use there was a really great button on remotes, and I don't know if they still have them, because now they're, frickin' computers, but it was called Previous. And if you click that button, it would switch to the previous channel you've been on. You click it, it would switch back. So I hit Previous, which, because on my little TV didn't get that many channels, it was C-SPAN. So, like, my dad would be like, oh, I need to tell you things and stuff. Oh, what you're watching? I'm like, C-SPAN, that's a really important vote from the Agricultural Subcommittee coming up. He's like, I'm so glad that you're taking interest in public civics and stuff like that. It's like, I totally wasn't watching Xena, Warrior Princess.
So you picked up on some sort of either local to you or societal homophobia, even without realizing it, and you internalized it.
Yeah, I had to be. It's weird because I actually had to be told I had a crush on someone. Like I'd had a crush on this girl actually for years and years before that, but I didn't acknowledge it. Although it was a very valuable crush because in trying to hang out with my crush, I took 2 years of Latin, learned the trombone, and played softball. So at least I became well-rounded because of it. But so I was like really sad that my crush hadn't come to school, and I was like, things and stuff. And my one friend's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm sad because so and so isn't in school. And she looked at me for a second, and I was like, why are you looking at me? And she's like, you have a crush on her. I think you're in love with her. I was like, that's stupid. That would make me gay. And I went home. I was like, oh wait, she's right. Oh, I guess I'm gay. This had to be explained to me.
This is the sort of thing that most heterosexual people are really not going to understand at any level. How the way you are can be vilified in public sort of stuff, so you realize that you can't talk about shit. But at the same time, it can't be possible. You think that you can't possibly be like that, or it doesn't even come up in your mind at all. It's some really, really weird cognitive dissonance that
it really is.
Straight people just mostly don't have to even consider the possibility of dealing with.
Then you have to consider coming out. And when I came out, this is one of those things that could only happen to me. It's like, so I don't think I've told the story on Lesbian Talk before, but so my mom was out on the porch reading. This was again like right after high school. Or maybe it was in high school, I can't remember now. And she was on the porch reading, the newspaper. And I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something. And she's like, oh, what is it? Doesn't even look up. She's, looking at coupons and things. I'm like, it's possible that if I ever went out with somebody that maybe it could be, theoretically speaking, they could be a girl. And she's like, oh, well, honey, I've thought that for years. And I was like, that's not what you're supposed to say. And she's like, what am I supposed to say? I'm like, I don't know. Can you drive me to the mall? Actually, that's very fortunate. Not a lot of people have that kind of fortune with their family.
Yeah. I found coming out to be a very tiresome experience, so eventually I just got to a point where I would say, I got something to tell you, but you gotta guess, because there was been so many people. And then there was other times when...
That must take a really long time, so like, you got a new video game? No. You got a new cat? No.
Took about 20 minutes.
Got a new dog? No. You're pregnant? No.
Took about 20 minutes. And then there was other times where I would tell one person, and then I would just wait to see who talked to me about it, just to see how the information would spread, sort of like a little sort of sociological experiment.
Oh, like Outbreak, but for gay.
Yeah. I just got, because it's coming out to people, it's so fucking tiresome. You gotta imagine going up to everyone, and you have to tell everyone that you like strawberry ice cream. Everyone assumes you like chocolate, because everyone likes chocolate. Oh, there's some weird people who like strawberry, but we don't know anything about them. You gotta come up and tell everyone, risking them hating you because it's something fucking stupid, and say that you like strawberry ice cream. Apart from the fact that it's really fucking insulting that you've got to do that in the first place, it's really, really boring, and it's annoying. So
It's true, but the alternate is worse, because I've had times where I've met a guy through LARP or something like that, or or work, or you will become friendly and stuff, and I'm like, oh, so and so's a really nice guy and things and stuff and blah blah blah, and they'll then we'll talk for longer and become friends over months and months, and then they'll make a move, and I'll be like, no, see, because gay. And they'll be like, oh, I thought you were being nice to me because you liked me. I'm like, I do like you, but gay. Sorry.
Well, my view's a little bit different. I can't recall the last time I came out because I'm so open about it. You know, if anyone asks about me, I refer to my wife, stuff like that, and I cannot recall the last time I had to come out. And this is one of the reasons why, not having to avoid with shit like that, is one of the reasons why I made the character of Hagan in my review show openly lesbian. I decided that their sexuality should be no more or less referenced in the show than, say, Spoonies or Doug's or whatever. I've noticed that the female reviewers tend to be a bit more quiet about it, and I decided to avoid that because I don't want to have to talk about shit when I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you go to panels, people are like, oh my gosh, damn on the Hagan, so what did you think of Serbian film? They never be like, so what do you think about having sex with women? Like, I've never heard that happen.
I'm not entirely sure they would ask that. If they did ask that, I'm sure...
I mean, obviously it would be phrased better, you know.
I think I really wish they asked me that now because I could come up with a totally great answer. I could be all like, why didn't you ask your mother? I'm sure she has similar feelings about last night.
And then the whole audience would go, ooh, and it would make YouTube.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're coming up to the break. We'll be listening to the music of the totally not gay Tony Goldmark, honorary lesbian, but this is off of his new album, which should be coming out sometime next month.
Welcome back to the amazing lesbianism of Lesbian Talk episode something, the big gay episode, because this is dedicated to you.
You asked for it, and you wanted it. Actually, you didn't.
Yeah.
You just accused us of it, so. And it's funny because I read the comments, like, oh, feminazis are so bad and liberal and pro-gay and racist. I was like, but all we ever do on our show is talk about Doctor Who.
That was the guy, I think it was an actual proper, honest-to-goodness troll, as in just saying anything that he thought could get a rise out of us. It was just so non-sequitur-ish. He was super liberal. That was the guy that I think was actually a proper, honest-to-goodness, legitimate troll. They would just seem to just create a bunch of non-sequitur-ish insults and string them together without rhyme, reason, or context. Because, you know, hyper-liberal, yes, from an American standpoint, I'm definitely hyper-liberal, although I would refer to that as sanity. They also refer to us as misandrists and stuff, and I
know lots of guys.
That kind of indicates that they didn't listen to the show, because neither of us particularly insulted men. And then the racist thing, that's a non-sequitur.
I thought it was because I insisted that Sherpa should run up Mount Everest and get all the bodies and bring them down. Maybe the person was a Sherpa, and they're like, that's not funny. I'm a Sherpa.
I doubt they listened to the.
What if they were?
To the episode.
If you're a Sherpa, write the show.
Although, I really wish in the ticketed comments you could post pictures, because I found a great picture of myself just looking all like, hey, look at me. I tweeted it with a link to the comments, being all like, check me out. Here I am being racist in my white face.
That part from the Isle of Dr. Moreau. Where Justin yells at Rapkowitz for being in whiteface. I watched that last night, actually.
And so anyway, on to the main subject, which is, of course, LGBT, though broadly mostly talking about lesbian movies.
Lobster.
Oh, yeah, sorry, wait. We got something else first.
Because we skipped it for like a week or two.
I forget the fucking lobster.
For all the people that are new to the show or have just discovered it through that guy with the glasses, we have two regular features. Well, among our regular features, we have two in the middle. Giovanni's Trivia Time with my lobster, Giovanni Jones, and One Time at the Store, which we'll get to in a second. But for today, Giovanni, are you ready to make your debut on That Guy with the Glasses?
Yeah, boss, here I am. Yeah, I even wore a bow tie for the occasion, even though it's radio. And
you don't have a neck.
I do still have a neck. It's like right here, between like this one part here and the other part that clicks on the other part.
You don't even know the name of your parts.
Lobsters have necks. I just can't pronounce them in English. Yeah, sure. Speechless, aren't you?
I'm never speechless.
But anyway, in honor of this being a really gay episode, I thought we'd have a really gay trivia fact. So, Sappho, the ancient poet, who was from the island of Lesbos, which is actually where we get the word lesbian, she wasn't really a lesbian. She was actually bisexual, and she wrote love poems for both men and women.
And she also gave the name Sapphism to lesbianism. Sapphism's an older and slightly more upper class name for lesbianism.
Yeah, you never see porn searches with that.
I bet you could, actually.
Really, really intelligent people looking for lesbian porn.
Yeah.
Professors. But anyway, I'm out of here. I gotta go to the gay club with my gay cousin. So, see y'all later. You were really nice to him, and I'm really glad.
I don't want to kill him anytime, you know.
She always wants to kill my lobster.
I'll kill him sometimes.
In and of itself sounds like some kind of dirty euphemism, come to think of it.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, now it's time for a part of the show called One Time at the Store. If you're just listening, if this is your first ever time, I have worked for nearly 10 years now at a large chain bookstore. I have seen pretty much everything, the weird, the awful, the inexplicable, and this story is one of them. So this actually happened today. Usually, here's a bit of behind the scenes with the show. Usually we have the music break, and I'm like, I have to think of a story for the store. What do I want to talk about? I can never think of a story. And I'm always like, have I told this one before about that one customer that thinks and stuff? And whenever I'm at the store and talking to a coworker and I'm like, back in the day, I can think of a million stories. But this one actually happened today, so I don't have to worry about it. So I was covering a break in the children's department, and the phone rang. And since I'm not primary on phones since I was in kids, it rang a few times, and I realized everybody else was busy, so I picked up the call. And the woman was like, yeah, so I'm calling about your activities. And I was kind of worried because we just had story time, so I was worried she's going to be like, what? I missed story time? And I was like, sure, I mean, I can help you with that. What did you want to know? And she goes, well, so Monday, what activities will you be having on Monday? And I said, well, none, because we don't have any activities on Monday. It's just, a regular day. She's like, well, because, see, my kids are going to be off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So I wanted to do something with them. So, what activities will you have for them? And I was like, well, we won't have any activities. I said, and I didn't really mean it to sound as snotty as it did, but I was like, it's a regular business day for us. And she's like, oh, so you don't have anything special going on for the kids? And I was like, no, we have story times, but that's on Saturday. It's every Saturday, sorry. And she's like, well, what should I do with them? And I said, I don't know. And she's like, well, do you have any suggestions? Where could I do with them? And I was like, well, I guess maybe try your local library, or if you go into the city, I'm sure that, there's some museums or something. I'll be, okay, museums? Okay, maybe I'll try that. Okay, thank you, bye. And it was just so, it was weird and random. Like, I'm kind of happy that she didn't get pissed off at me for not having any events on Monday, and she didn't be like, this is how you honor Martin Luther King by not having any events. But at the same time, do you really need some random customer service stranger's opinion on what you should do with your children? Like, if you don't know how to hang out with your children, shouldn't you have thought about that before you had multiples of them?
Yeah. Although I think that your store having a Martin Luther King Day sort of thing for children would have been beneficial, but she's silly to expect that she's silly to expect that it would definitely be there whenever it's not. But having one there would be a good idea for future.
Well, that'd be cool. The thing is that events they're done by corporate. I mean, the CRM, the community relations manager, can do stuff like book fairs and special stuff like that. But on a Monday, I mean, it'd be nice, but we really don't have the manpower for that. And quite honestly, it would just be a story time. There wouldn't be really. I mean, we could read a story about Martin Luther King, but that's kind of about it.
Fair enough.
Maybe 10 years ago, before the economic downturn and the credit crunch and everything, when we were a lot better staffed and people were spending a lot more money, we might have had the extra staff then, and that could have been cool. But sorry about your kids, ma'am.
Well, you could have told her to go to the Harbor Museum in Philadelphia.
That's true. I didn't think. I said the museums in the city, so.
Because they had the whole section on slavery there.
Oh, and here's an extra bonus story. This also happened today. So, I was bending over and I was putting a book away on a lower shelf, and all of a sudden a little toddler boy came up and glomped onto my leg, hugged my leg. I looked down and I was like, hi there. And he looked up at me completely shocked, because his mom was nearby, so I think he was looking at something and got confused. And legs all look the same to children. And she was like, no, I'm over here. And he's like, and he just let her lead him out of the section. It was cute, though. I was like, there was a small child hugging my leg.
I did that once, thinking that someone else was my mother when I was a small child.
Aww.
I'm not entirely sure how I thought this other person was, because I don't remember much about the other person, but they were blonde, and my mother has never been blonde.
Yeah, but you were all wee and short, so you probably couldn't see that high. Unless you were that tall forevers.
Yes, I've always been that tall. That's why my mother had no children after me. Except she did. And she's a masochist.
But anyway, what's our main topic of conversation?
Well, whenever you were talking about Martin Luther King Day, if you wanted to be really on the ball, you could have been all like, well, nothing to do with Martin Luther King, but Bayard Rustin, who works closely with him, is from Westchester, Pennsylvania. Maybe you could go over there and ask them to create a museum dedicated to him, because he was badass.
Just walk into, like, the center of Westchester and be like, I think you need a museum.
Bayard Rustin is the direct link, as close as there is to a direct link between Gandhi and MLK that there is.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. He's the guy that convinced King to stop having guns in his house and to become all pro, like, complete peace and stuff like that.
Yeah. Complete peace.
Dun dun dun. But
anyway, what's our main topic of conversation?
Yeah, we're going to talk about lesbian in movies and other movies too. Earlier you were talking about But I'm a Cheerleader, and it's a fun little silly film. Although I have to say, the concept would be much more powerful if they filmed it like.
And it wasn't a comedy?
Yeah, if they filmed it like the first half of Full Metal Jacket. Have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket?
I have not.
Okay, I'll give you information on Full Metal Jacket, and then I'll move on to what But I'm a Cheerleader is about for the general audience. Full Metal Jacket, the first half of it is these guys being trained to be Marines, and basically it's dehumanizing, breaking them down, destroying their individuality, and the second half is them in Vietnam shooting people. It's really harrowing, destroying the individual and all the pain and damage that the thing does psychologically. Okay, But I'm a Cheerleader is a teen comedy about a girl that whose parents think that she's a lesbian, so they grab her and send her to an ex-gay camp, and it's all like, oh, look, RuPaul is like the masculine leader of the camp and telling people to be heteronormative and stuff. Isn't it hilarious? And I really think that making it a comedy, making a horrible thing a comedy can definitely have power. It can rob the thing of fear, and it can be a positive. But I don't think in the way that they meant to do it, the type of comedy they did, because this is a very, very, very sort of John Waters light comedy. Everything's very camp. And I don't think it's quite the right way to deal with a thing that really happens in real life.
Yeah, there was someone started a thread on Reddit the other day. You know, people that have been to a gay conversion camp. How did it go for you? And some of the stories were like horrific because there's no oversight. These people have legal permission, as long as they have your parents okay, to take you, kidnap you against your will to other states, and do whatever they want to you.
Yeah, you can use humor against this sort of thing, but doing it in a camp way is probably a bad idea. I'd liken it to doing a camp comedy about rape. About someone being raped.
This might have been before a lot of the truth about a lot of these places was coming out, though.
It's possible, but remember the film she portrays her using these electric torture devices on herself.
Yeah, but that's something that she does, not that she's directed to do. And the joke was that she's a masochist, so she gets off on it anyway.
I seem to recall that they were also directed to do this sort of thing. You got to hurt yourself in order to not be gay and stuff. You could be right about the timing. I'm not sure. But another change I would have made to make the film more powerful, apart from the Full Metal Jacket sort of idea of treating it very seriously and really, really fucked upedly, make the main character actually straight.
Yeah, because she ended up being a lesbian anyway at the end.
Yeah, which kind of destroys the purpose of the thing. It's like saying, oh, you're assuming this person's a lesbian because of blah, 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 but oh wait, she is a lesbian after all. And it was really stupid
things too, like she once ate tofu, and she had a George O'Keeffe painting, and...
Yeah, and then they have another character who is who's really, really butch, and they find out that she's actually straight. And it's like, they cat-handedly handled the main character Natasha Lyonne played, and they did an okay sort of curveball thing with the butch straight person. Why not sort of unite the two in one, and show like this straight person who is heterosexual getting dehumanized and broken down, so they start believing that they are gay and everything, and have a sort of semi-relationship with someone, and basically show over 90 minutes that this is destroying someone's identity.
Oh yeah, some of the stories that I was reading on this Reddit thread of this one guy, it was his son telling the story, and he said that his dad was sent to one of these camps and they did really horrible things to him, so he, you know, married a woman, but he was always miserable. He became an alcoholic. He was depressed. And then he had an affair with another man, and he finally came out, and the parents got a divorce, and the kid was, you know, he said, you know, it's really horrible because I've seen what this does to people, and, you know, my dad has been literally, like, his entire life, like, struggling with this, depressed, alcoholic, all this kind of stuff. You know, he never cared, you know, he had violent outbreaks with me and my brothers. He doesn't really care much about our lives now that he's, you know, divorced my mom and got his boyfriend and stuff like that, so. And this kid was like, this guy was like 32, was telling the story. So it's not just the gay person that you're affecting, it's everyone that's a part of their lives.
Yeah, these things are warped beyond belief. But
I mean, it was a good movie, though. It was like one of the only lesbian movies I've seen.
But I'm a Cheerleader is a fun film. I really just wish they'd chosen something less real-life fucked up in this to wrap their fun little film around.
Well, it seems to me like, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day as we were, when Hagan was over for Christmas, she was playing around with my Netflix and was scanning through, you know, the gay and lesbian selection on Netflix. And I actually said, I looked up and said, oh, I don't want to watch a sad gay movie. Let's watch something fun, like Science. Because I don't really like to watch gay and lesbian movies because they're usually sad.
Yeah, they're usually sad or not terribly well made, a la Christian movies. Well, Christian movies tend to be more just not very well made. It's because when you get a minority with a limited pool of money and resources and stuff, they're not going to be very good, generally.
Well, it just seems to me every single one of them is about oppression or forbidden love or both, and only about 33% have a happy ending. So I'm like, why am I going to waste my time watching this that's going to depress me when I could be watching Mythbusters for the 90 bajillionth time?
I can understand why they do it, though. You've got cinema to a certain extent who's going to mirror what happens in real life. And
I know, and it's good because, you know, movies about forbidden love and oppression and or both, you know, are good, but it's at the same time, it's just depressing. And, like, you know, you told me, oh, well, Butch Jamie's really cool and you should watch it, and I really didn't want to because I was really afraid it would be a movie like that, but I actually did like it because the character was basically me, but weighed less.
Yeah, Butch Jamie is... I watched it back-to-back with Bear City, and they're very similar films, but one's for gay guys, one's for lesbians, and Butch Jamie was the better of the two. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a sequel while Bear City does. Go figure.
Although, now I'm trying to think of all of other gay movies that I've seen, and embarrassingly, I think that it's not much. In fact, yeah, But I'm a Cheerleader, which I don't know if that technically counts, Butch Jamie, and Sugar High Glitter City, which is a porn.
I've never seen that, but I kind of want to.
Well, back in the day, I was going over Sam's, and we were going to go clubbing that night, and he was there with a friend, and he's like, oh, we're watching this porn, you should watch too, and I was like, awkward? And so it's this lesbian porn, but the difference is it's made by lesbians, for lesbians, about lesbians, so at least half of the cast look like me. And the plot of this, I think I may have even explained this before at some point in the show, but the plot of this was in Glitter City that sugar is outlawed. It's been banned. Oh no. But there's a black market for sugar. But on the black market, to pay for sugar, you have to, like, do lesbian things. Either that or just the only people who want sugar are lesbians. That part was never really fleshed out. But the cool thing was that there was a little, like, stinger scene called Picking Up Girls with Fairy Butch, with Fairy Butch, the advice columnist, actually in it. And it was really cool. And I was like, this is neat. Even though it's a porn.
Oh, totally.
Actually, it wasn't even that bad. The worst thing I remember is somebody with their shirt off, actually. Quite honest.
This sounds like the sort of thing I would have to review.
I think it's available on DVD. I can't remember if I watched it on DVD or VHS. It was that long ago, but you'd probably find it on Amazon.
Okay. There's another lesbian film which you haven't seen, but you probably should, even though it is painfully 90s-ish.
Oh dear.
And that is Better Than Chocolate, which you have seen one clip from. Yes, it's obscene. That's the point.
Oh, I like it. I like that part.
Yeah, it's basically lesbian comedy from Canada, and...
Oh, I was thinking of, like, Water for Chocolate. Never mind. I was like, but doesn't it take place in Mexico during the war? But that's...
No. But, yeah, but it's fun. It's very much of its time, and, It gets points, though, for being a lesbian movie that's not at all transphobic. A bunch of lesbian movies which you've seen which touch on that area are accidentally or deliberately transphobic. Because lesbians, we unfortunately have quite a sizable group of people who are complete shitheads.
Yep.
Like, one like that would be the Itty Bitty Titty Committee.
But not the Itty Bitty Kitty Committee, because I see them all the time on Facebook. I do.
But the Itty Bitty Titty Committee, they have this, like, lesbian-ish... they do tricks, gang who do tricks and sort of cause trouble and sort of do minor terrorist actions and stuff. But they've one of them, which
so
is fine.
If you're like a double D, you can't join?
I don't know. Max from the L Word turned up on it, but not the character, the actor.
Oh.
Daniela C. One of the characters was explicitly a trans man. Who was just represented as a different type of lesbian and just treated as one of their sisters and stuff. And it's just like, no.
It doesn't really work that way.
They're a guy. You're trying to be nice and inclusive. You're completely fucking that up. This is like the time I saw a Christian movie where they tried to be inclusive to homosexuality by having a gay character. But of course, they had them be ex-gay. No, they had him be ex-gay. It's like, you're not doing inclusiveness for the group that you're targeting. You're completely fucking it up because you have a warped view of them. You know, possibly not deliberately, but you definitely need to do more research.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I just wish that normal movies would have gay characters in them. So then, like, you know, like I watched Mulan, I'm like, this is pretty cool. She's like, you know, all sorts of butch, and she's like, yeah, make a man out of me, I'm gonna kill Huns. At the end, I'm like, this is awesome, she's a Disney princess, it's not really a princess. And then at the end, she was like, oh wait, I forgot. Hello, love interest. And he's like, oh, I'm suddenly your love interest. And I was like, well.
Yeah, the Mulan would have been a perfect one for them to have their first gay princess.
We're not even gay, it's just, she just doesn't have a prince. I mean, that's cool.
Of course, one of the problems with having gay characters in mainstream films is, of course, the horror of the fact that, A, you got stupid people who are usually straight have this idea that if you have a gay person in your thing, or too many gay people, or more than two or whatever, then suddenly it's a gay movie. There's a certain percentage of straight people who seem to not understand that not everything is made 100% for them. Big films do not have to be catered exactly for them in every way. Like, the new Star Wars movie that's, you know, being scripted right now had a gay lead.
A gay Jedi, that'd be really great.
You can bet that there'll be a bunch of straight people pissed off at that because they are used to films catering exclusively to them. They want gay people to be either mascots or victim figures, but they have to be small and they cannot be actual main characters. They can't be the character that the audience is supposed to identify with, and they're probably going to be gone before the end credits.
The gay must be flaming and the lesbian must be dead.
Yeah, and honestly, these idiots, it's like gay marriage. These guys have to get used to, eventually, the idea of that they're going to have to identify with someone who's not straight. They're also going to have to learn to identify with women, with people who aren't white. It's going to happen, hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
if we can identify with leading men in films, they can fucking identify with having a leading woman who doesn't like to suck dick.
She has to explicitly say that. Wait a second, I thought this was children. I hate dick.
Yeah, that's like Star Wars.
Oh.
You know, sucking cock is the dark side.
Wow, that brings a lot of things into question. So, Anakin, what exactly is your relationship to Senator Palpatine? Well,
he raped me a lot. He raped me a lot.
Well, it's like, in Paranorman. Again, there's a gay character who was gay throughout the entirety of the movie, and you only really find that out at the end in one single throwaway line.
That's that is a...
And I thought that was great. And Mikey, Insanity, was visiting me, and we went to see it then to do a vlog, and there was a family who basically had a whole bunch of kids, but one of the children was too young to really understand and started crying when the zombies came out. But then no one said anything, like the line happened, and then also the mother goes, like, a beat too late, goes, ew, ew. Like, she was trying to get her kids to do it, too, and then, like, no one else in the theater did it. And I was so angry, and in fact, if I hadn't been with Mikey, I might have said something. But I didn't want to embarrass him.
I can definitely see the positive towards handling it like that. It's like lulls the straight people into a false sense of security. It's like, oh, look, it's a heterosexual lead. Then suddenly, gotcha, gay. Oh, no, my mind is gone.
It wasn't even a lead. It was not a bit character, but it was a minor character.
Yeah, but still one of the he was represented. He was heroic.
Yeah.
In the film, so it was like a way to throw in there without actually them realizing it. On the other hand, though, I'd love to get to the point where you can just have the main character have the on-screen boyfriend and stuff, and not have it be an issue, or at least have it be so little of an issue that Pixar doesn't give a shit about what idiots think.
Yeah, but I see all this stuff on the internet, and every day some minor official from some state says something so horrible. And you just see all this stuff and people saying the worst things about people like me, and it's just, it wears you down to the point where, I guess that maybe it is institutionalized homophobia, that out of all the stuff that I could stream on Netflix, I probably won't watch any of the documentaries, or any of, about, gay and lesbian stuff, or any of the movies, because it's like kind of work. It's like, wow, I have to think about my gayness all the time, in the world now because of politics and stuff like that, and then be told that just because I'm gay, I'm quote-unquote being political. I just want to watch Mythbusters and relax.
Well, part of the thing with documentaries, it could be that watching a subject on a documentary is a lot less interesting when you daily deal with that subject.
Yeah.
It's, after I came out, there were people sending me all these links to LGBT sort of things, all these lesbian things and all that, and I'm like, usually it's done with a straight audience in mind. The documentary, I mean, so it's not good, because it's like, I gotta deal with this shit for real. I do not need the version of this to be served up for the titillation of straight people. That's why I much prefer, if I'm gonna watch a gay documentary, it has to be about an interesting subject, and B, it should have some sort of be done by gay people, or a straight person I trust.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's just, I'm not trying to put down gay cinema at all. Don't think that. It's just, I don't know.
I can name you some decent documentaries, like there is a Small Town Gay Bar, there is Brother Outsider. The Celluloid Closet is very good, although it is like early 1990s, and it really needs an update because it's about the history of homosexuality in cinema, and it sort of cuts. It was made in 1991 or 1992.
Oh yeah, so
Philadelphia had just come out, so it's like, you really need to update this, guys.
I would watch a documentary about, like, alternate sexuality, like, back in the day, like, the Victorian era. Like, that'd be kind of cool. But
that would be interesting.
I just don't want it to be depressing.
Well, unfortunately, it will
the entirety of Carl Sagan's Cosmos is on Netflix. I'll watch these gay movies later.
Unfortunately, documentaries about alternate sexualities in the past will most likely be depressing. Because we were... As bad as it is for us right now, this is probably the nicest it's ever been for us.
That's true.
Although I got a book I'm going to have to lend to you when I'm finished reading it myself, which is a history of female soldiers in the American Civil War.
Oh, that would be interesting. I agree with that. I still haven't read your copy of Sodomy and the Pirate Edition that you lent me, which is right next to the book by Walter Scott. So.
Oh, that you picked up in Edinburgh.
Yeah, so it's Tales from a Grandfather, but with a Scottish accent, and then Sodomy and the Pirate Edition.
Yeah, occasionally I would like going to airports and stuff, and for some reason I always just come out with most interesting books when I'm there. I'm like, I can wander through an airport in Belfast and find a book about the history of how London treated its dead in the Victorian era.
Remember that time you had that book about castration on Film Brain's live stream?
Oh yeah, I still have that book. I've read that. That's fascinating. Whenever I go to London, I always go to Gaze the Word, the LGBT bookshop there, because they have fascinating books. Like, I got a history of homophobia, and
Giovanni's Room, the long-running gay bookstore in the Philly neighborhood. I think I heard that it was shutting down because the owner was selling. Keep talking, and I'll get an update on that.
I really wish I could go to Giovanni's Room at some point. If it hasn't shut down, and if we end up in Philly at some point, I would really quite like to visit. Buy a couple of books. I mean, I went to Philly Pride last year, and I ended up with a book on the history of homosexuality in, like, early American history, which was in itself fascinating, although it went as far as, well, not early American history, it went as far as, like, 1960s, and it didn't mention Bayard Rustin once, and I'm like, you motherfuckers. Bayard Rustin's, like,
according to the website, it's still up, but I don't know when the website was last updated, so I'll check on Facebook. But next time you're in town, I'll bring you to Giovanni's Room. It's a really great bookshop, I mean...
Is it close to Reading Terminal Market?
Well, it's in the neighborhood. It's, like, near Lombard.
I don't know. Where is it close to that I've been to?
Nowhere. It's in the neighborhood. I'll take you there. It'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, apparently it's still open. There
Okay,
had
cool.
been word that the owner was in ill health and was going to have to sell it, but I guess the employees bought him out.
At some point, whenever we go to London, I'm going to take you to Gaze the Word. I'm also going to take you probably to Soho, where they have some, LGBT-related things. And they have a couple of bookshops which sell things like the complete works of Tom of Finland, and which I'd personally like to get, because it's fascinating. Have you seen any Tom of Finland?
I don't know Tom from Finland.
Tom of Finland was he was Swedish and Finnish, and he drew sort of gay porn cartoons.
Okay.
And I find his artistic style fascinating. It's like he was in his teens whenever the Nazis invaded Finland, so he basically took a lot of the German sort of fascist visuals of the ideals of manhood and basically turned it into gay porn, which is hilarious. But I'd love to see an animated film done in the style of Tom of Finland. It's just such a striking look for images of men fucking other men.
I'm sure you can review that.
I totally would.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, do you know what time it is?
Dictionary?
Right. Again, if you are just joining us for our first regular show, at the end I have a very old and weathered copy of the Oxford American Dictionary. Hagan picks a page, a column, and a word, and then that's going to be our jumping off point for next week. So, honey, what page?
I might want to mention the fact that due to the setup of next week, this might not be necessary.
That's true.
So how about we do this in a different way? How about I mysteriously and magically choose the words for Christian, and therefore we have a jumping off point?
Yes, but if we can't get the interview, then we're going to be really up the creek.
Well, then we'll just have to be all like, oh no, God punished us for being gay.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, next week. Well, this is what we would normally do, but we've got a set up hopefully for next week where we're going to have an interview, and it should be fun.
Yeah, totally lots of fun. So for all the people who accuse us of hating religion, we're going to talk to a religious person. So there.
We're going to talk for the second time with independent Christian filmmaker Zach Lawrence from Indie Christian Review. We're talking about the matters of faith and filmmaking, because I still have an obsession with Christian cinema.
And he actually, we're going to be talking about his new movie. Because
Yes.
You've watched it, and I have it bookmarked, but I'll probably watch it tomorrow.
Yes, I have watched In His Steps, and I have to say, he asked me what I thought of it, and I can't remember if I've actually replied yet, but my reply shall be, if I have not, it's not so bad that I would have reviewed it for my show.
Which is always a compliment from you.
Which technically means it's better than Left Behind.
So tune in next week if you want to see if we get burned up or not by an errant bolt of lightning for being sinners.
See you later.